Okay, it's day 67. This is part one, and I put together a quick Fusion GPS timeline. First piece here is that Glenn Simpson and Mary Jacoby have been writing for the Wall Street Journal a long time, and they wrote an article in 2007 about Paul Manafort, which I call the Manafort Manifesto, which is, hey, there's these lobbyists in Washington that really know how to pay to play, and they're influencing the Republicans, and they're influencing, etc. Better watch out for those guys. Is that not really just a great advertisement for Paul Manafort, going all the way back to 2007, saying, boy, he's an influential guy, watch out for him? And then, lo and behold, a year later, Manafort ends up consulting for the McCain campaign. And Simpson and Jacoby again write an article about it. Oh boy, that Manafort, he's tied to everything. You better watch out for him. Kind of almost like a enemy saying, well, I really respect that guy. But it could be that they were just trying to say that Manafort's a bad guy. But you notice these same characters just keep coming back over and over again. Now I'm going to add stuff that we kind of forced out from our timeline, which is the Hillary, what I call the foreclosure of the DNC on September 30th, saying, hey, I'm not saying Rahm Emanuel drained you of all the money and we took it out and put you in a position where you can't even pay your rent, but now we'll bail you out if you let us sweep money on an hourly basis and sweep information to Brooklyn. And of course, somebody signs a secret agreement. Maybe that agreement happened, maybe it didn't. Maybe they just stole the money to begin with, but let's just say the agreement happened. So then Becerra, with the caucus server, begins sweeping the money and information every day. Now, don't you think up in Brooklyn they had, at Hillary for America, had an NGP van system that was linking on the hour between DNC and Hillary for America? I think so. I don't think the people up here are going to use a different system than the people down here. DNC is going to use the same system as Hillary for America, and the sweeps are going to be on the hour, and that's what those 7,000 sweeps are going to be. If you don't remember the McCluskey article, I call it the McCluskey report. That's one of the documents we're going to be asking for, is tell us about the sweeps. Tell us about the 7,000 chimney sweeps. And you can think of, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Poppins if you want to think about the sweeps. So then, now what happens here? Somebody in New York, maybe a Justin Cooper, says, oh, by the way, I noticed a lot of money going from DNC to Hillary for America. I'm no longer the key guy. This other guy, Brian Pagliano, took over for me. I'm going to go to the FBI. So he goes to the FBI field, potentially. This John Giancarlo Colon is the number 2 guy at the FBI. He's the one who says, hey, in February 2016, the thing has gone sideways. I've been ridden off the Hillary server. Andrew McCabe's taken over. He has the Crackers with Attitude hack a little bit later to get rid of him because he's a problem. Then Flynn joins Trump. So then they hire Manafort. Now, is Manafort a plant is the key question. Now, we've had a relationship going all the way back to 2000, 2007, 8 between Glenn Simpson and Jacoby, the husband-wife team, and all of a sudden, boom, Paul Manafort lands in there. DNC hires GPS, and boom, 2 or 3 days later, Trump hires Manafort. We don't know. We don't know the answer to that yet, but we're going to find out. Then there's this meeting. This is the Zebley meeting. Zebley, if you don't remember, is Justin Cooper's lawyer. And he's meeting with Mueller, and he's in this marathon meeting at the White House. The reason why you have meetings at the White House is so you can go into the SCIF, the Secure Information Area. And that's April 12th. Now, there's somebody leaking. I think somebody's leaking through Eric Prince. I think there's somebody in the field FBI leaking through Eric Prince, through those old connections there that he used to have. But that's just me and you. Keep that between me and you. But I also think Braverman. I also think he's leaking out to Braverman. I think Braverman's under a lot of stress at this point. He's been under a year of stress from Podesta. More than a year now. 13 months. Okay, so we don't really know if that's a defensive meeting or an offensive meeting. We don't know if this is a defensive meeting saying, what the hell is Cooper doing? If you start showing people, hey, here's all the money transfers that happened way back here, from up in beginning in October, Do you realize all the Bernie money is going into Hillary's bank account? That's one big problem. So that would be a defensive meeting here with Mueller. If it's an offensive meeting, this is about let's get dirt on Trump. Let's get dirt on Trump with Zebley. Because it's Zebley and because that's the lawyer for the defense, I'm thinking Zebley is leaking information to Mueller about what Cooper has said. So, and Cooper thinks, hey, my Zebley guy is advocating for me and try to get immunity for me. But what's really happening is Zebley is telling Mueller everything that Cooper knows, okay, and what they got. So the strategy here, delay that damn server. Delay that damn server. So now we got Jacoby meeting at the White House. This is Glenn Simpson's wife, about a week later, for about a week. I think this is the offense. I think this is the defense saying, okay, let's get our hands on what does he got on us. Now let's turn it around and go on offense here with the Jacoby meeting. And now let's accuse Trump of what Cooper accused us of. It takes about a week to think all the details through. That to me makes sense. This is another marathon meeting with 6 people. To me, I think I'm going to say Robbie Mook is in this meeting, and Jennifer Palmieri. You want to get your actors of the school play together to get your story straight all at once. And it has to, again, be at the White House to be in a skiff information. Now we're going to go down here to the this is what I love about talking about sweeps. Now all of a sudden the DNC people are saying, oh, well, maybe the hack was a little bit earlier than June, like we said before. Maybe it was a little bit earlier than May. Matter of fact, we're going to go all the way back to April now. And this article in Tablet came out where they talked about that, this CrowdStrike expert. And some DNC executive called CrowdStrike. Right, well, what that really means is, Mike Kempner's saying, well, let's say I called you, and we'll do it again through Perkins Coie, so it won't be traceable, so we'll have executive privilege. This again, coming out and saying we got hacked in in April, is obviously a lie. We know we're doing sweeps beginning 8 months before up to Brooklyn. So again, we know this is a front. We know it's a lie. But that is the excuse of calling in CrowdStrike. Okay, CrowdStrike is going to erase our footprints from the McCluskey server, erase our sweeps, erase our sweeps of money to Hillary for America, and then we're going to move forward. Now, the reason why CrowdStrike hangs around is Bernie hangs in there, and they're like, hey, this is great. We got more money, and we keep sweeping. So you have to keep CrowdStrike around until the mess is completely over with. You have to cut it off at some point, because you're taking a big risk here with a leaker out there. But at some point they cut it off. I think it's going to be May 25th is the weekend. They cut it off and then they make their final sweep. They wipe all the servers with a cloth. They wipe the phone system with a cloth. And now the cloth. And now we're ready to go. So now here we go. But by and large here now we're setting up, Orr's getting the ham radio license and everything and getting the network of the spies together. We're going to bring in the Russians. Cozy Bears are fine for sweeping money out of the DNC. The Wands are great for sweeping money out of the DNC. But now we need the big dogs. We're going to need to bring the fancy bears in to break into the communications of everybody in the Trump inner circle. This is where people don't realize that Andrew McCabe has worked with Steele for at least 8 years. I think it's almost going to be 10 years. But I mean, Steele and McCabe worked together on setting people up for FIFA, the soccer executives. They're going to be working together to set up the NASCAR executives. Any type of time when we have a major event, there's going to be bribery around building stuff for like Olympics and stuff. You're always going to have the Russians, bribe somebody 50%, and then McCabe's going to come in and take away the Russians 50%. That's the way it's always going to be, or whoever the other business partner is with the Russians. It just happens over and over and over again. And again, if you know Andrew McCabe has never done law enforcement ever in his life, and he's only done extortions, he's only done color of law extortions, then it's an easy thing to figure it out. But if you don't know that, you think, oh, well, that was a good bust by Andrew McCabe. So, and you've got to remember when you say one thing for Orr, when he hires Nellie Orr, it's basically because Glenn Orr over at Department of Justice has given a go-ahead on the project. You're going to bring these guys in now. You're going to bring these Russians in because you don't want them hacking from Romania. Because there's lots and lots of endpoints and points in the middle where you could pick up that traffic. You want them close. You want to bring them in close like the Cozy Bears were close. You want to bring the Fancy Bears in close like the Cozy Bears. So you bring them into Maryland to stage the activities, and then you do things like, you give them the van and you drive by Trump Tower and you try to hack cell phones, and then you get a server in there, you get a marketing server in there somehow, or you find, you start exploring the network for vulnerabilities, basically. It's going to, we're going to set up yet another one, Andy. I can feel it. We're going to set up another one. And of course it bombs out, and Trump says, yeah, no, I'm not really that interested. And basically they write it around their previous, I'm not going to say trafficking, but their previous adoption business of bringing kids into the European Adoption Center in Strongsville, Ohio. There's going to be other places, Russian babies in Florida, Russian babies here, Russian babies there, lots of adoption centers, but I think the key is they're going to be writing it around that European Adoption Center, that main funnel in Strongsville, Ohio. And then the next day, and this is where all these old articles now become so comical. Here, Robbie Mook comes out and says it's the Russians that hacked us. Well, if you know that they've been sweeping, since October 2015, this is just ridiculous. This is a ridiculous lie. Poor Robbie Mook, right? He went back here. They talked all about this at the Whitehouse meeting. Now I got to go out and say it. Now it's obvious to everyone wearing shoes that he was lying at the time. But interestingly enough, Jacoby, the wife of Glenn Simpson, Jacoby, who wrote those articles about Manafort, posts that, hey, by the way, Robert Steele, this British spy, is working for Glenn. We've got Steele working for him. There's something going on here, and then funnel your intelligence to Glenn. Okay, so that's why I think she says that. But the Carmack meeting, these documents that just came out said there's a leaker from a security detail company. I think that's Eric Prince. I think that's Blackwater. If you know of a different security detail company that's not Eric Prince, please tell me. But I think Prince had a lot of, I'll respell Clinton there, Prince had a lot of contacts in the FBI. And then, of course, it ends with, I'll end here, the DNC lawsuit on the 28th.